My name is Barbara Japaitis, and I'm going to talk a little about my novel, The Amber, and how the goddess Austeja forced me to write it, and why it's important when the goddess calls to, pick up the phone. When the goddess calls, she's fierce and real, fierce with reality. Women search for the goddess, and we hope when she finds us, she'll make our way simple, clear, and certain, because, that's what a goddess should do. However, the goddess who wants you is the one who finds you, and sometimes she arrives with more questions than answers. The goddess who found me was Austeja, Bee Goddess of Lithuania, and she did not make it easy. In fact, she swarmed me with bees repeatedly until I wrote a novel. Of course she did, because my father's family is Lithuanian, a strange Baltic country. Most people, when they see my name, my birth name, ask if I'm Greek. And when I say I'm Lithuanian, they say, "Oh, I thought you were Catholic." I've learned how to get people to pronounce my name properly by telling them it rhymes with most inflammatory diseases: arthritis, bursitis, hepatitis, chapitis. I've learned to tell people that Lithuania is a Baltic country which was the actual geographic center of European power and once seen as the most formidable place to try and invade. Chaucer said it was the worst place to fight a crusade in. King Henry IV of England spent a year trying to conquer it and failed. And he came back a couple of years later and tried again, and again he failed. Lithuania beat the Teutonic Knights. They co-opted the armies of Genghis Khan to help them. They were and are a stiff-necked, resilient, and persistent people. But I never would have known any of that if I hadn't been swarmed by bees, who were apparently under the service of Austeja, that ancient goddess. 3 times in one summer I was swarmed by bees and badly stung. When the goddess wants you, she doesn't mess around. I complained about it to a friend who said, "Well, you're Lithuanian." "What's that got to do with it?" I asked. "Well, Lithuanians have a bee goddess." "I think," he mused, "they want you to write about them." "Yeah," I said, "sure, I'll do that." But I had other projects, paying projects, mind you. And in the meantime, my husband and I built a house out in the country, which took some time away from writing about my ancestors, painful and non-paying imperative. But as soon as we built the house, a swarm of honeybees gathered at one of our trees. They wrapped themselves around a branch and stayed there, the sound filling our ears. I mean, thousands of honeybees. I didn't know it then, but this was a blessing. They did no harm, and after a few days, they moved deeper into the woods. Just stopping by to remind me about that novel, I suppose. But soon after, we had an invasion of wasps in the ceiling, right above the pillow where I sleep. I saw a dark circle on the ceiling, and I could hear them. "They're trying to eat their way through and attack me," I told my husband. "Oh, don't be silly," he said. But when we called an exterminator, he said, "Good thing you called. They were eating their way through the ceiling. Another day, they'd be in the room." Ha ha ha! I was right. That same summer, another swarm of honeybees passed through our yard. I heard them, the sound unmistakable. I watched their flight from my home office window. What I didn't see was that they found a way to crawl in to our house. and decided to build their hives inside our walls. After they settled in, we called many people to try and get them removed safely. I love honeybees. I know they're in trouble, attacked by pesticides, so I wanted to save them. Also, I didn't want my ancestors angry at me. But the best we could find at the time was a guy who told us, "Oh, yeah, I can do this. It'll be $20,000. Ooh, that wasn't going to happen. My husband shot a bunch of poison into the walls. Listen, I told my ancestors, I know you're on the wild side, but use some sense, would you? I can't save you. I was guilty and slunk around guilty for quite a few days. And then I heard a strange buzzing near an electrical outlet in my office. And like one of those stupid girls in a horror movie who goes down to the cellar with a faulty flashlight, I unscrewed the outlet. And immediately, wings, 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 bee wings were trying to get out. I clamped the cover back down and took a breath. The honeybees survived, and they were trying to get me. Thinking of my father, who made me read Silent Spring and taught me the importance of caring for the planet. Thinking of all the good work honeybees do. Thinking how important it is we pay attention to our imprint on the planet. Thinking of Austeja. I worked out a system of cardboard, Tupperware containers, and duct tape that allowed me to capture and release the bees which were trying to break through. I spent 4 days doing this, like some Discovery Channel episode, until it seemed I'd gotten all I could. I remember the last bee lingering and saying to it, "Go! Get the hell out of Dodge, would you now?" Really. It continued to linger. And so I said, "Okay, I'll write the damn novel, I promise. Just go." When it was gone, I started research in earnest and found all kinds of facts about my own heritage, many of which explained why I am the way I am and why I do what I do. I fell in love with this world and its people, which were part of my DNA. The result was the novel The Amber, which pays homage to the Lithuanian bee goddess Austeja and explores what it means to be dragged back into your own soul, your own heritage, just when you thought you could leave it all behind. I had never been sure about my Lithuanian relatives because they were dour and cooked a lot of pig parts I didn't want to know about. But I soon learned that much of my approach to life came from them. I learned that they loved trees and cared for them. To be a forester in Lithuania is still an honored position. Trees connect us, earth to sky, earth to spirit, and they hold the spirits, and they give a home to the bees of Austeja. They have a prayer, Lithuanian prayer, which says, "When a child is born, plant a tree. When someone is wed, plant a tree. When someone dies, plant a tree. If you build a house, plant a tree. Our prayers are heard by giving thanks to the trees." And I always knew this. I always knew this. We are alive on the planet because of the trees. They breathe out what we breathe in. They breathe in what we breathe out. We wouldn't be here without them. I learned that they were the last to I learned that they were the last to acknowledge the Pope and the first to leave the Soviet Union. And when they left the Soviet Union, they took down those statues of Stalin and Lenin, and they put up a statue of Frank Zappa. Yay, those are my people. I also learned that Austeja, Bee Goddess, her name contains the word to weave because she weaves the community together. Bee life was seen as the best way for humans to behave, each doing their work, all woven together in community. Good neighbors shared hives. Good neighbors took care of the trees that sheltered the honeybees. In this way, the humans of Lithuania understood that their lives were also woven with the non-human life all around them. And this mattered. To this day, a greeting to a good friend in Lithuania is labas bisulis, which means hello. We share a sting. We share a hive. The reason we search out our ancestors and our ancestral goddesses is because their story informs ours and helps to shape our souls. The more we know about it, the better we can make conscious choices about what we'll keep, what we'll leave behind, and where we want to go next. Listening to the goddess of our people is about what we want to do next, and that matters a lot. When I finished the first draft of my novel, I printed it out and stood on my front porch holding it, saying thank you, as I always do on the completion of a first draft. As I did so, a swarm of honeybees flew down my country road, dipped briefly by me, and moved on. I thanked Austeja. I thanked the home of her people, Lithuania, Lietuva. And of course, I sent my thanks to her honeybees, hoping we'd do right by them and Austeja at last, hoping we'd learn the lessons of connection she tried to teach us. And finally, I learned that even if the goddess is not the one you expected or wanted, when she calls, pick up the phone. Thank you.